microphone. Dang.
Okay, we are live.
Okay.
So it'll be a minute while people start to join. So far, nobody's joined yet. But
okay. So when I'm going to pull up my...
Can you see, Amy, the number of people on the top?
I got it.
Yes, I can.
I know how to do this.
I can see that.
Okay.
Lisa, what room are you in? Is that your office? Oh, no. You're not at your house.
No, this is at my daughter's. So I'm at her daughter and my daughter's office.
So Gail has liked it already. So if you will notice.
Okay, we got a couple people on.
Two.
Well, we can talk about where we're going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're going to be with Lisa Durnell down in, is it West Plains? Is that where we're going tomorrow?
She's in the West Plains area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're super excited about that. And then we're going to be in, Lisa, do you know where we're going to be? On Thursday? We're going to be, I think, in Republic on Thursday at noon.
And Nixa.
And then are we going to, and Nixa that night, right?
Yeah.
So we're super excited about that. Yeah. That's
All
going
right. So you're doubling up.
Yeah. So we got those three. What about you guys?
We just got back Thursday. It was funny. We were driving and Mike said, we're going to Houston, Missouri. I'm like, okay. I'm just going along for the ride. I didn't even know there was a Houston, Missouri. And then we missed the turn. He's like, oh, I think we should have turned there. And I'm like, oh, well, just keep going. We'll go to Sedalia. Go right. We'll be fine. Well, we chose the interstate route versus the back route unknowingly. And so we are through the woods to grandmother's house we go. And then we're over the hills and down. And then we're on a little bit of interstate. And then we're back into the wooded area. He's like, wait a minute. I don't think it's Houston, Missouri. I'm like, do we know where we're going?
Like Houston is so far from Sedalia. I'm processing that right now. So.
Yeah, we made it. It's all good. It's a very sweet little community, and they're battling it out. You know, they were really adamant that we could only talk about, Amendment 5. That was it. They were very worried.
Oh, I can see the comments.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to see them.
Hi, Tammy. Hi, Gail. Oh, yeah. So, like, our besties are going to watch.
Yeah, we've got people jumping on now.
There they are. See, it just takes them a while, so we just have to chit-chat until they get here.
Rumble always takes a little bit longer to kick in, and it's because there's folks there.
Mike, just so I understand, if I click on this, it will show it. And does it?
There you go.
Okay, can we all see that? Okay.
We have been everywhere, and that's like Lisa and I. Lisa cannot. Without GPS, she gets lost, like going to the grocery store where she lives.
I do too, so I'm no better.
I do not let her. I always worry if she's in charge of the directions, always. I mean, I don't know. I am not good at directions, but like Lisa's like 10 times worse than me. So it is always a concern. Or that one of us is booked to speak somewhere and the other one doesn't know, and we got the wrong day, and somebody calls us at 5:30 and says, "Where are you guys at?"
Oh God, no way.
That's what we're always worried about, right?
Yeah, we've checked the GPS a couple times. I'm like, we're 3.5 hours from home, so let's make sure we're on the right route.
Yes.
Yeah. But
that's far, like I said, Lisa keeps her side of the car at like 85. Yeah. And I like mine at 62. And when we have a hotel room, I sleep by the AC, and I notch it down. And then she has like her full sweatpants and
full sweats.
And she brings an extra blanket. I'm like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Like, I'm sweating at 65. Like, oh my God.
Here's a funny story where we're waiting for people to get on. So Mike and I can't remember where we were going, but we were like, we got to take a bathroom break. So it was a very kind of a weird exit, and it looked like it was going to be really easy to get to, but instead we had stuck in some neighborhood. I'm like, no, we got to backtrack. We go back.
It was in St. Louis.
But what's so funny is we go in, we're like, okay, where's the bathroom? And she's like, and she kind of points to the wall. I'm like, what the hell, the wall? They had like the big plunger sticks with the keys on, like old school. I'm like, dude, they're outside. Had our little plunger sticks, and we had to go to the outside of the building and knock it. I'm like, wow, I haven't done that in a long time.
Hello, everybody. Wow.
There's Tammy.
I see.
Brenda.
I'm not sure
who else on there.
Who's this person? JB Hill. Oh, is that Britt Hill? Did I get that right?
There's Isaiah. Hey,
Hi.
welcome, Isaiah. Glad you were able to join us.
Yes, we know he's a busy family guy.
Where are we tomorrow? Lisa and I are going to be with Lisa Durnell down in the West Plains area tomorrow. That's where we are tomorrow. Don't you guys have a big one coming up in Marshall, a debate?
Yep. Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Nice.
I get the pleasure of debating Melissa Thomas and Tom Estes.
I saw that flyer today. So Tom Estes apparently is working for Missouri Promise also, because that's his his title is Missouri Promise. So that's interesting also. So, but I just got to make sure I know what I'm doing here with the technology. So Mike, when you're ready. But no, we just are super honored to be here, because every time we go somewhere, it's like we have people that'll ask us, can you come back in a week? Can you come back? Well, it's crunch time now as it comes to the election. And so just so glad that you guys know how to do the technology part of this, so we can actually do this presentation to other people who had wanted to bring people to watch a presentation. It's just that there's like only right now 4 of us, it feels like. And there's a whole big Missouri, and we all have jobs and work and everything else. And so just really honored that people are making the time just to listen and to see what the presentation's all about and see what the other side actually is of this issue.
Yeah, and to just have the dialogue, respectful dialogue. Let's just talk it out. And
I will say today, it's just so disappointing, because are you guys noticing that if you dare like speak out against Amendment 5, you're a Nazi, you're a socialist?
Oh, it's terrible.
And that's just simply not true. And all these are the people that profess to be like Charlie Kirk. They all act like, we're Charlie Kirk. That is not like Charlie Kirk. Intelligent dialogue is really where it's at. And it's just so disappointing to see people who call themselves Republican want to just lump us into a group of something that we're not. And not to say, look, the Democrats have as much right as we do not to like Amendment 5. So we don't have to be divided in order to understand this is bad for all of Missouri. So I'm really tired of that. You have to pick a side.
Well, that's why I said bad policy is bad policy. You don't need a party 100%. Affiliation to declare a policy not, good policy for the people.
100%.
To just do that. It makes me feel like they're desperate.
Oh, it looks like we've got Bryant Wolfen has joined us. Maybe.
Well, hello. Look at that.
It's Flip Flopper.
Flip Flopper is here.
All right. Here's Flip Flopper. But I mean, even calling him a name, like once he got educated.
I know, because he had he's voted one way on the first.
We know Tim Jones knew better. He was taking advantage of the situation, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. And again, it's okay to learn. It's okay to get educated. It's okay to infer knowledge from experts, and then to pivot and say, okay, this isn't what I thought it was. And that's how the process should work. But that's why they try to ram things through so fast that no one has the ability to really do the research, to find out too late. I saw Don Mayhew posted something yesterday. He's running for Senate. And what he had said was, it was interesting that he had said that, I just voted this way so you all could vote. Y'all have a choice to vote. So I was only a yes vote. So
because he's going to put it on the ballot. Well, that's so nice of him.
But that's what
I've heard a few others like that.
That seems to be the go-to when I just felt I needed to give it to the voters. Yeah. That's the new. Okay.
Well, we've got about 30 folks on, so maybe we're trying something new tonight. If you've been on with us before, we haven't tried this before, but we're going to try to do some polling on here. So, and
then Lisa, we see your question. We'll definitely get back to that.
Yeah. So let's try the first poll question. So when we put it up on the screen, we'll read it, and then you should be able to comment in whatever platform you're on, and it hopefully will tally for us.
And they're supposed to pick the number, right? 1, 2, or 3.
They can pick the number, or they can type the response. So,
okay.
So the first question, we just want to know where you're at right now. Do you support Amendment 5 from what you know about it right now?
Do we get to do this too?
Yeah, right.
I see it on my screen. I'm just asking.
What is it? So, from what you know right now, do you support Amendment 5? So, we got to give it some time. They're going to have to put their answer, either the word or
See
the
if this is gonna
number.
work. I've got one response.
Look at that. I see it. I see it. I see the juice. The juice has joined us on Rumble. Let's see. Okay. We got, oh, let's see what we're doing. The poll.
We've got. It looks like it's working. At least we're good.
Yeah, right. This is new. So maybe.
So we'll give this a few minutes. And
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of see.
So Lisa, you're doing radio first thing in the morning, right?
Oh, really?
6 to 9 on 93.3 tomorrow
You're
with
6 to
Drew.
9. Okay.
okay, so you're doing
What-
the whole show then, huh?
Yeah, well, with Drew. I'm just
With
the
Drew.
sidekick tomorrow.
But
Are
you're going
you-
to be in person, right?
Yep.
Are you
Nice.
talking amendments or are you just doing
We're going to talk probably a whole bunch of things. Whatever Drew wants to talk about, we're going to talk amendments, and we might get into somewhat of the Evergy case that
Okay.
goes into the data centers and what we're going to end up paying for the data centers via the utilities.
Interesting. All right. We'll be
All
tuning
right,
in.
I'm gonna hide that poll for now, and we'll just. So right now we're at 9 to 1 opposed to start
Okay.
with. So. All
Okay.
right, are you ready for me to share your
I am.
presentation? All right.
So do I pull it up or do you pull it up?
I think I've already got it here. Hopefully.
Oh.
Tax Girl says 2. Oops. She must
Oh.
have.
Now-
Okay. Now she changed.
Okay,
it.
so you're gonna have to maneuver it on your screen again. So I'm adding you to the stage. So
So if I go like this,
Yeah.
yeah,
like,
and then
oh,
make it full screen.
I got to go back to the top. Sorry, everyone.
I'm gonna hide the comments on the screen for right
Okay.
now.
Well, I can't see anything except the presentation. So we are the Shield Maidens. You guys, please interject as you will. But the presentation is about Amendment 5. You're going to be told. Can you see it?
Yep. It looks great.
Yep.
I yes vote on 5. We'll get rid of your income taxes in Missouri. We'll cut your personal property taxes and we'll cut your real estate taxes. Those are, in my opinion, like the big 3. They also say things like it's going to be revenue neutral. We're going to cover all that and we're going to go through this pretty fast. But if you guys have something to inject, please do so. The truth is it's going to lift the ban in our Constitution that bans sales tax on services, expands sales tax on goods. It suspends the Hancock Amendment in the Constitution. It allows the legislature 5 years to write the tax code without a vote of the people, opens the door potentially to toll roads, carves out marijuana in the legislation. No other carve-outs exist in the legislation. No caps on sales tax rates and no end date to the income tax in Missouri. Start it with trust. This is the same legislature that's asking us to trust them. And so you guys have been in the Capitol, Mike, Amy, Lisa. And so I don't go to the Capitol. I listen every day, but I very rarely do I go into the Capitol. So you guys have way more experience with watching and just the disgust you feel with the trust. But I think the first thing, Lisa, if you want to go into this, because I think this is a really important thing that people need to understand. This is new. This is from June 10th of 2026. The Missouri auditor warns deep budget cuts loom as the surplus nears an end in Missouri. What does that mean, guys?
So with that, the state auditors come in and he said, look, guys, you've spent us into oblivion. You've now spent us through the surplus almost, like we don't have anything left, and you're going to have to get your act together, meaning you cannot keep spending like drunken sailors. So this is the condensed version of what he said. And then he said, after he gave them that warning, that they in turn went and spent even more out of general revenue. That's his words, not mine. So they are spending into this place where we're not going to be able to do that anymore because, thank God, our Constitution says that we cannot spend ourselves into a place of debt. And so right now, they're going to have to either cut spending or they're going to have to drive in more tax funds, which comes back to Amendment 5 because they never want to cut the pork that they're giving away, by the way, they aren't just giving the pork away to like you and I or whatever. They're giving the pork away to lobbyist corporate interest that come back to them as political favors. So that's why these do that. It's like this. I call it the circle jerk. That everyone in this mix is doing the circle jerk over here of I give to you, you give to me, and it's this corrupt system that they have going on, and they don't want to stop it. So last session, what we saw was $50 million needed to be cut. They cut it initially, and then lobbyists came into their office and they put it right back in. Yep. And then what we heard was, guys, we can't keep doing this. No, they won't be able to keep doing it. But that's the place that we are right now.
I think if you read from this article, this is the Missouri Independent, and it says the budget will at some point have to be limited to current tax receipts, the report states, because Missouri cannot borrow money to cover a shortfall. The budget passed this year, the report states, missed a chance for, quote, responsible, proactive steps to achieve that balance. Instead, Fitzpatrick writes in the report, the state is on track to completely run out of money in the general revenue fund and be forced to implement emergency budget reductions, limiting options and maximizing pain for every Missourian and entity who relies on state-funded services. Mike, Amy, you got anything to add to that?
That's pretty dire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dire.
And I mean, it's my belief that that's what Amendment 5 is really all about. Is because of the window that they create for themselves with the 5-year suspension of the requirement to go back to the people for the Hancock Section 18E. That gives them the ability. The legislation says that the reduction has to be on the same piece of legislation, but it doesn't have to happen at the same time. And that's exactly why they had to have the Section 18E on there, is because the sales tax expansion will happen first. And a few years down the line, maybe we'll see the reduction in the income tax. But we'll have the double taxation for a period of time. And that may be 2 years, it may be the whole 5 years, but it gives them another way to bring in a revenue to keep the spending at the 50 billion plus level that they're at right now. And that's what I believe this is really all about.
And I want to interject something there, Michael, that you said, and that is there is a guarantee in the legislation that it says for those first 12 months that they would implement something. That first 12 months, they will see, there is no doubt in it, double taxation. So if cuts are made after the first 12 months, I mean, we don't know. That'll be left up to the legislature. But we know based upon the amendment itself that for the first 12 months when they implement this, that they will be taxed. It would be, I don't even say double taxation. We don't know how many places this is going to touch as far as taxation.
So, Mike, do you have this video? Can you cue this video up? I'm going to tell people what this is. This is a budget. Okay, I'll explain what it is. It's the budget committee hearing in February 19th of 2026. So this year in the House. That is Scott Fitzpatrick, and he's explaining to the budget committee in the House. He's warning them. Now, this is before this legislation ever passed. He's like, guys, we're headed to a fiscal cliff. We're going to fall off this cliff, and then a representative says, how do you feel about Amendment 5? And I want you to pay careful attention to when he says, well, it can work, but you're going to have to cut out all the carve outs or the favors to the special interest, or the rate is going to go, and his word is, through the stratosphere. I want people to understand that for every carve out given, and there should have been guardrails in the legislation to make sure there would be no carve outs. But for every carve out given, that will cause your rate to go higher and higher and higher. It will have no control over that. They're giving themselves, and we'll show that in a second, carte blanche for 5 years to decide who gets a carve out, what rate those will be. And just what kind of services are taxed. We'll go into all of that. But do you have this video by any
I'm
chance,
working
Mike?
on it right here. Here, I think I should have it here. It won't
But
be
this,
very large, but
that's okay. Just the words of the
We can hear it. Yeah.
That, you know,
oh, maybe that'll.
And if not, we can upload all of this to
tough
Shield
decisions are
Maidens.
going to have to be made just to
Right.
get to a flat increase. And even that, we're showing you is not going to be enough to solve the problem. You're going to have to cut.
Right. That's helpful. Any conversations in your office about how the shift in eliminating the state income tax and shifting to sales tax will influence general revenue, either temporarily or long term?
Well, that would really depend on how the legislature chose to structure it when they did it, or when you all do it or don't do it. The constitutional provision is kind of silent on exactly how it would be done. The reality is, I think it can be done in a way that is revenue neutral, but it's going to require you all to eliminate a lot of sales tax exemptions. Without, if it's going to be done without taking the sales tax rate into the stratosphere, the only way to achieve it is to eliminate a bunch of stuff. And we have a lot of exemptions. I've done business in a lot of different states. Sure. We have the 12th lowest state sales tax rate in the country, and we don't charge sales tax on really any services, which is uncommon, I would say, in my experience doing business in other states. And so it can be done. It's just a matter of, is the political will there to pass the bill the way it needs to be passed to keep the rate reasonable? And and the only way to do that is to eliminate a bunch of exemptions. And but it can you can eliminate the income tax. It can be done. Other states have done it, but it takes some. It's going to take telling some people no, your exemption is going to go away. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
When I say some people, I mean almost everyone.
Okay. So when you take in what you just said, and we can skip to the next part.
Almost everyone is going to have.
Okay. I'm sorry, Stacy, I couldn't hear you.
I think that the most important thing is for people that don't understand where this is really going, to hear your state auditor in his own words talk about what happens with Amendment 5. This was in February. It didn't pass until May. But he is telling you, if there are carve-outs, it will send your rate into the stratosphere. So I also want to read this next. David Wassinger, your lieutenant governor. I think he's the only statewide office holder who has not endorsed Axe the Tax, supports Amendment 5. It was just about 2 weeks ago. He posted this on social media. Storm clouds are brewing over Missouri's finances. Since 2022, more than 3,000 new spending items totaling nearly $13 billion have been added to the state budget, most of which are pet projects driven by lobbyists, special interests, and career politicians. Now, really take that in. $13 billion have been added to our state budget since 2020 in 4 years. 3,000 new spending items for special interests and lobbyists. How does that make you feel?
But what happens? What happens when we bring up, because we've been advocating that they can do this without
Yes.
Amendment 5. They could, if they wanted to. I mean, we have been lowering it just based on new revenue coming in. But if they want to accelerate it, the way to accelerate it in a conservative way would be to cut spending. And when I brought that up to them, every one of them said, "Well, there's no way to do that. It's just
all right."
Well, I'm going to add on to that, because they need to make those cuts. But you heard what he said. If there has to be political will. Political will means, are you willing to do something hard because it may cost you the election? There is no political will to get it done. So
now really take that in, people of Missouri that are listening. Since 2020, this is coming from your lieutenant governor.
mm-hmm.
This isn't coming from us. You call us communists because we bring this up, or we're Democrats. He is your Republican lieutenant governor, and he's simply stating the truth. Since 2022, more than 3,000 new spending items totaling $13 billion have been added to the Missouri budget, most of which are pet projects driven by lobbyists, special interest, and career politicians. But he attached this article. Moody's ratings lowers Missouri's outlook to negative. This is May 1st of 2026. That's pretty dire, guys. I mean, Missouri is broke. And we are in trouble, and nobody's talking about cutting the budget. They're just all crossing their fingers and hoping Amendment 5 makes it across the line. And I agree with you, Mike. I think this has a lot to do with it. This is another big deal, and you guys were all part of this, so I want you to talk about this. But this was something that was a huge bone of contention. Who wants to talk about this? What's going on in the Missouri Senate?
It's just a video live stream deal. So I don't know how many people realize this or not, but there's only 2 states that don't have that don't provide a video feed for their citizens to see what's going on in their state senate. Our House does and has been from I think 2015, but the Senate there's only audio, and they only archive what happens on the Senate floor for the hearings. You can listen if you listen live, but you can't go back and listen later. So Senator
here, can you see what his amendment is right here on the screen? This is what, if you guys
Yeah.
want to read that, that's what his amendment actually, what they're about to talk about. You guys read that, because that's what this is all it said, the one little paragraph.
In order to provide members of public with the opportunity to view the proceedings of the Senate when they are unable to do so in person, the Senate shall provide an audio and video feed at the Senate proceedings that shall be available on the website of the Senate. Such audio and video feed shall become operational no later than April 1st, 2026.
So Senator Moon, being the gentleman that he is, he tried to go through the proper process, even though he had the ability at the start of every Senate session, when they start the day, there's a period where they can bring up a Senate rule. And he didn't do that at first. He let it try to go through committee and tried to play nice, and nothing really came of it. He had a hearing, but nothing came after it. And so me and Amy and Lisa were all together that day, and we started in the House that morning at 10 a.m. because the House usually starts at 10 and the Senate usually starts at 1. We just got into the House and we started getting text messages that the Senate was in session, so we knew something was up. So we all 3 ran across the building to get to the Senate. And when we walked into what's called a standing division vote on tabling this Senate rule. So what had happened that day, they were going to finally do the budget that day. And Senator Moon said, well, this is the day I'm going to pick to do the Senate rule. And when he did, him and Luca Meyer had a back and forth. And Mary Elizabeth Coleman got up in the middle of that and had a motion to table the whole thing. And then she wanted a standing division. So a standing division is where they have everybody get at their desks and they say, if you're for it, stand, and they count them, and then they have them set. And then if you're against it, stand, and they count those. The problem is the standing division, if you're not there to see and record who stands, they don't put it in the journal who stood and who didn't. They just tell you if it passed or didn't pass. And I think they will give you the number, but you won't know who. So when we walked in, that's what was going on. So we're trying to get the pictures. Anyway, me and Amy weren't quite sure we had the right information. And I'd started sunshining videos because, as I say, that the Senate doesn't provide a video feed for us. They do videotape everything, and they have it available to their members. So I decided I would sunshine the video from that morning.
So smart.
And I did. I got the video back, and I'm playing it, and I think I can pull that up here.
Okay.
So let me
People need
share
to
my
see
screen
it.
again. Let me share my screen again.
These are people that you're asked to trust. Okay.
Just have said we need to trust them. They're going to figure this out
Just trust
because
them
they've
to find
spent all
it.
the money so far too. So
Yeah. Well, we're supposed to trust them because but Lieutenant Governor Wassinger had been really beating this drum also.
Yes,
We need
yes.
video.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was almost a way to stick their finger in his
Well,
eye and say,
for
back
sure.
off. It's
For
how I felt. So,
and us too. I think.
Yeah.
It was
Let's see if I can.
But what you're going to see here is Mary Elizabeth Coleman. So again, the video is clear. And to think that we could actually have video feed of the floor debate, we could have video feed of the committee hearings, that they won't do that for Missouri, one of only 2 states.
Okay, I think I've got it here.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you.
All right. All of the senators, please proceed to your desk so we can have a standing division. Senator from Jefferson.
That we're calling senators to the chamber.
All right. And Sergeant Arms, would you please confirm the senators have been called to the chamber? Thank you.
Notice all those empty desks
Where are they?
in their office with the lobbyists. They say constituents, but.
I can't see it on my screen, but tell me when the
Okay.
it happens.
It's
Yeah,
still,
there's-
there we go. Just
Oh,
went
there
black.
it is. Screen's
So
gone
tell
black.
people what
You
happened.
listen real quick. You'll hear him ask them to stand here.
Yeah, you'll hear
Just
the
when
audio.
it's,
Okay. Senators that are present appear to be at their desk. All those in favor of tabling the motion relating to resolution number 668, would you please stand?
We still have a black screen.
Yeah.
Still nothing there.
And we can move on from this now. I
Yeah.
just want people to see. I think it's just so important that when we're asked to trust and we say, hey, we don't trust, you're not a Republican. No, you're right. I guess if this is what you want me to trust, I guess not, because this is disgusting that we can't even sunshine request a vote. They don't want you to know what is going on in the committee hearings. They don't want you to know what's going on the floor debates. Like there's some days I'll ask Lisa, how many people were in the Senate committee hearing? Because people drive from all across Missouri to be a part of that. And some days I'll text Lisa, say, how many people are in there? One senator. I mean, it's just, it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable.
well, and what makes it worse is when they get to the floor debate, what you'll hear them say is the excuse for not having much of a debate on the floor is they said, well, this went through committee. It passed the committee, but we know that there wasn't anybody in the committee that was actually listening to them either. So they're
Okay.
And I
not
should make it really
that-
clear on that video. That was a sunshine video that we received that they had blacked out the vote.
So you couldn't
Yeah.
see. It's redacted.
so we could, so
It was
we,
a redacted
and the
sunshine
whole
video.
point of the sunshine request was so
Let's
we
see the
could
vote.
get an accurate count of who did stand and who didn't stand for that. So,
And I think what people need to realize also is that Senator Schnelting, this is one example, and at the very end of the video, you can see him walking in. He missed the vote. It was like one vote separation. Who else
There-
missed the vote? Was it Schnelting and Schroer?
Or
they
Yeah,
both,
the
they
two
were
freedom
both, they were both there for the vote. There was a preliminary vote before this happened, and they left after
Yep.
that vote for the main vote because they didn't want to be on the record. And
Yep.
Snelting, I believe, told one of his constituents that reported that he said he had to take a bathroom break
Yeah.
and missed it. Rick Bratton wasn't there. Jill Carter wasn't there. I mean, the tally was 12-11, so there's 34 senators. So most of the senators weren't there.
so
And
did
this
you
means something to us. This means something to Missouri. So again, they're asking us, and we're going to get into the legislation. Well, I'll skip this. I'll put this on Shield Maidens. This is so great. This is Lisa Panett, so people can see what she does when she's in the House and Senate. And she's basically reaming out a House. Lisa, what are you doing here? Tell everybody what you're doing here, because I love this video.
Well, which one is it? So is this one with the
It's about the
utilities?
taxes. It's about the
The-
taxes. They've been
the
traveling
taxes.
around
yeah,
all
yes.
over Missouri, listening to the people.
Okay, so basically what happens in this video is that they had a discussion beforehand about how they had gone all over the state and they had talked to the people of the state. And so they had their hand on the pulse of Missouri about what was going on with taxation. And the people didn't want more taxation. Now, on the heels of that, they were bringing in a bill with more taxation. And so I begin to browbeat them in the hearing saying that they must be tone deaf because how can you go around in this entire state? The state says that they want less taxes, and what you bring forward in a committee is actually a bill that's going to increase their taxes.
Real estate taxes. And that's where people are feeling drowned right now with real estate taxes, because your legislature won't do anything to stop the madness of what's happening with the state tax commission. So the state tax commission has gone to your elected assessors, and I'll hurry this, but said, unless you sign an MOU agreeing to an international set of standards, because that's what we, the state tax commission, have agreed to. If you don't sign on to a memorandum of understanding that agrees to that as well, then we are going to withhold the sales tax for your county. And what are they looking to use, Lisa? And you guys, what are they looking to use with those international set of standards?
It's artificial intelligence. So that's
They're
what they used in Jackson County to drive up all the assessments, was artificial intelligence.
You do not, and this is the big deal, guys, you do not need to vote to get rid of your income tax in Missouri, okay? This was in 2022. Legislature sends $764 million income tax cut to the Missouri governor. They did it without a vote. Missouri is the first tax to repeal. This was in 2025. Your capital gains tax, your legislature has the ability, without a vote of the people, to cut your taxes. So when they all act like, you guys run, don't walk, run to the polls, make history, vote away the state income
For the
tax.
kids.
But
Yeah.
again, this capital gains tax was not a swap. This was a real tax cut. Arkansas right now is doing it exactly how Missouri should be doing it, based on revenue and cutting their budget. And they're doing it step by step. They're not doing it all at once, but that's the way to do it. They're not changing their constitution. They're not swapping one tax for another, and we shouldn't either.
No, this is the HJR. That means it's a House Joint Resolution. When passed, will go to the ballot for the people to agree to. So what you're looking at right now is this is what the legislation looks like. So too often, what people are coming into your districts and doing, they're only talking about the ballot question. But this is the guts of what's going to happen. This is the license. This is really what you're voting on. And nobody on the other side wants to talk about the legislation. So we're going to talk about that right now. So it's a joint resolution. So if you look in the red, in the very first paragraph, it says submitting to qualified voters of Missouri an amendment repealing, that means removing sections 40 and 26 of Article 10 of the Constitution of Missouri and adopting 2 new sections in lieu thereof relating to taxation. So what you cannot do in the state of Missouri is that you cannot amend your constitution without a vote of the people. And that's what this is. I want to go into this one more thing. What time, Lisa, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
What time did this happen when they brought in this substitute, which is something nobody had seen because they had been tinkering around and the House had done something different? What time of the day did they actually bring in this new HJR for a vote of the Senate and pass it? What hour was that?
So this was almost midnight. I was there, and so let's just address this, because we have some people that are like, this is normal to have these controversial bills that happen at midnight. So there's a half truth there. It's normal to start at a normal hour and then debate things and really go to war until the early morning. Okay, that is normal. To bring up such a controversial bill almost at midnight, where the doors were already closed, normal people weren't coming in, all of that is not normal. And by the way, there was little debate, little anything. It would pretty much just came to the floor and it was a done deal.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a little bit of this. It is 15 minutes. This is from Senator Joe Nicola. It is 15 minutes after midnight, said State Senator Joe Nicola, a Republican from Green Valley. The people are not here to watch, to listen, to take part in this process. 2 other Republicans, Senators Moon of Ash Grove and Lincoln Huff of Springfield, joined the opposition. The bill came up at 11:30 p.m. Wednesday and passed 18-11, a little more than an hour later. The plan to replace income tax with an expanded sales tax that could be imposed on, quote, any goods or services is unneeded, puts the state in potentially dangerous financial position, and implementation, if passed by voters, will dominate legislative debates for years to come. It is appalling to me that we're going to remove some of the constitutional limits and ask the people to trust us to figure this out. That all came from Joe Nicola. Bravo, Joe Nicola.
Hey, we have to interject a little.
Yeah,
little
can I
comedy
add something here real
Of
quick
course.
before? I know Amy's got something she wants to play to express
Please.
her views on this, but before she does, I just want to point out that this wasn't just a small change that they made. This had gone through the House committee, passed the House floor, made it to Senate committee. They had a very large committee meeting where many people came and testified on all sides on a bill, and then they completely swapped the bill out at
midnight.
At midnight.
At midnight, and they did stuff like the original bill at least had a formula for lowering the income tax.
Yes.
Now it says it'll be decided by future legislation.
That's right.
They moved the Hancock suspension went from 3 years to 5 years. I mean, there was a lot of major changes, and the offset for the counties, if they see a windfall, went to a one-time adjustment.
That's right.
This
One
last
time.
week. So there was major changes made on this bill. And again, it took them an hour and so many minutes to pass it once they brought the new one up that nobody except the insiders would have even got to see. And
Right.
with that, I'll let Amy.
I don't see that. I don't see it anymore.
Okay, I'll play.
But I would say this:
Oh,
what
wait a minute.
it's
Go ahead.
so
Shame.
important.
Here's
Shame.
This is what we need to
Shame,
play
shame,
more of.
shame.
Hold on.
Shame on you. Shame, shame, shame.
Yes,
Shame on you.
Yes.
it's true.
Shame on them.
But here's the deal. I mean, these guys are not economists. Like those guys most of them had not even seen this legislation at midnight. So to even say, hey, give me a second the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning, let me
who
call
are
an
you going to
expert
get at
in my.
midnight?
Yeah,
You know?
everybody's in bed.
Yeah,
And so like my grandma always said, I say this, nothing good ever happens after midnight.
that's right.
And that is true of the legislation that was passed. But this is just what it says. The legislation says at the next general election to be held in the state of Missouri, sections 4D and 26, Article 10, Constitution of Missouri are repealed, and 2 new sections adopted in lieu thereof to be known as sections 4D and 26 to read as follows. So the first thing we're going to do is look at what we're repealing. Lisa, do you want to read that?
Yeah, in order to prohibit an increase in the tax burden on the citizens of Missouri, state and local sales and use taxes or any similar transaction-based tax shall not be expanded to impose taxes on any service or transaction that was not subject to sales, use, or similar transaction-based tax on January 1st, 2015. So that would be, with your yes vote, we would be removing that protection of imposing taxes.
So that had gone to the voters in 2016 and overwhelmingly passed. The voters of Missouri said, we do not want to tax services in our state. What Amendment 5 does is ask for you to vote yes to repeal that protection that currently exists in our Missouri Constitution. So that's the one of the big deals. We could go into this bill for 4 hours because it's so layered, but that's a really big hit. That is the crux of what they want. They want to expand taxes on goods and be able to tax any service at any rate they decide in the future. What are some of those services that could be taxed? Legal, funeral, accounting, daycare, veterinarian, automobile, Uber, streaming, delivery services, haircuts, lawn care, plumbers, contractors, electricians, roads, toll roads, rent, medical, dental, pharmacists, real estate agents, sports trainers, counseling services, ag, estheticians, massage therapists, tattoo artists. It goes on, utilities, surveyors, title companies. It goes on and on and on.
And any of those services that are large enough to have lobbyists will be up at the table saying they want to be exempt. So if you just go through this, we know the funeral industry is already negotiating an exemption.
100%.
So that goes back to what Fitzpatrick said. The more of those guys that get that exemption, the burden returns to the people.
It says that state and local sales and use taxes, this is where it's going to be replaced with this, or any similar transaction-based tax may be expanded by legislation, Lisa?
Not yet written.
Not yet written.
Not yet
Haven't written
I
yet.
like
Every
that.
time you see the word legislation, not yet written,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
impose taxes on transactions involving any goods, not just services, any goods, your groceries, it could be anything, any goods and services. Words matter in legislation. So when it says involving any goods and services, that should be a huge red flag to Missouri. That is what the legislation says. We're not making this up. This is exactly what it says. It goes on. This is the most important, in my opinion, paragraph in the whole all of the legislation. Again, it says any expansion of the sales and use tax base or increase in the state sales and use tax rate, because they get to decide with that, enacted for the purpose of reducing and eliminating the individual income tax and reducing local tax rates, shall be offset in the same legislation, Lisa,
Not yet written.
by, because we don't know what that looks like yet. And I ask a lot when it says local, the word local. I've asked so many different locally elected officials, did anybody ever talk to you about this? And everybody's like, we have no idea what's going on. Absolutely. So we don't even know what that's going to look like for localities. By a reduction in the top rate of individual income tax that reduces such tax revenues, less refunds by the amount that is, I love this part, is at least substantially equal to revenues generated by such expansion of sales and use tax base or increase in the state sales and use tax rate. And now get this part, this is where we're going. And if such legislation is enacted within 5 years of the effective date of this amendment, it shall not be considered new annual revenue for the purposes of the Hancock Amendment. Now, why does it do that? Let's go to the Hancock Amendment. This is from the Missouri Constitution, page 144. It says the General Assembly in any fiscal year shall not increase taxes or fees without voter approval that in total produce, quote, new annual revenues greater than either 50 million. So it defines what that is. But again, your key word, your protection, if it's over a certain amount and it's considered new annual revenue, go back to the words. It says, if such legislation is enacted within 5 years of the effective date of this amendment, shall not be considered new annual revenue for the purposes of 18E. That means they're creating themselves a loophole. They're not going to call it new annual revenue, even though the expansion of the tax on goods and services will be new annual revenue, but for the purpose of the requirements of the Hancock, they're not going to call it that. It's not considered that.
And this is the proof that there will be a time where you're paying the new sales taxes and still paying the income tax. Absolutely. Because the way Section 18E works is if in the same year there's a tax increase, but there's a matching tax decrease and it stays within that threshold, then it doesn't have to go back to the people. Right. So they would not need this in here. The only reason they would need this in here is if there were going to be years where that was not the case and they were going to exceed that. And we know that if they're going to actually try to get to the $9 billion or so it would take to replace the income that or the revenue we're getting from the income tax, that they'll far exceed that.
Right.
That
but they're not going to consider this new annual revenue.
So, no. Okay. So yeah. Can I interject for a second? Okay. So Michael Burton says through the process, Republican leadership changed the language from modifies the sales tax to modifies to modernize when it should read increases. And that's absolutely correct.
It's right.
And the courts agreed with that assessment as well as the courts agreeing that they really were not talking about the constitutional provisions that they were sidestepping in order to do this. And that's why they changed the constitutional amendment to read curtailing constitutional protections, which really most normal people don't use the word curtailing. Okay. Right. But it's suspending, it's, setting aside, right, for the purposes of this. That's really what they're doing. They're setting it aside for the purposes of this legislation, that, by the way, even though it says 5 years, once it's written, it goes on into perpetuity. For this is a new tax code forever that we're entrusting the legislature to do just things for us.
Yeah. And I just think that is the key right there. Again, that for the purpose of the hand, and then the Constitution defines new annual revenue. They're not going to call any of the revenue that's gained from these new taxes with the quote legislation yet to be written. They're not going to count that as new annual revenue for the purpose and the language of the Hancock in 18E.
So
Go
back to
ahead.
back to the trust issue for a moment.
Yeah.
Now, if they had not suspended Section 18E and left that completely out of this amendment, where they did have to go back, what could have happened if they wanted to get our trust, they could have come back and said, okay, you gave us the framework, and now here's the first legislation that we're going to try to pass. We're going to tax A, B, and C at this rate, and then in 2 years we'll reduce the income tax based on the revenue we bring in. Will you guys approve that? And it would have gone back to the people to approve.
That's
If
right.
they didn't want to do that.
Nope, for 5 years. And I'm just going to add this. I believe that the tandem of 5 and 4 and 5, they think they're going to get this across the line and lock it in with 4, and we'll never be able to do anything about it. And I think that's why I find 4 so dangerous, honestly, is because of 5. Now, I'm going to go back because this is super important. If you go back to this paragraph and you go what we've just read, 5 years of the effective date of this amendment, comma, shall not be considered new annual revenue for the purpose of the Hancock. So we're not going to call it new annual revenue because the Constitution says if it's called new annual revenue, the voters have to vote on it. So they're eliminating that there of this article, and this is a big deal, and shall be exempt from the provisions of Article 4, Section 30B, 30C, and 30D of this Constitution. What is it, Lisa? What is 30B, C, and D?
Okay, so let me first explain what 30A is that's not listed in here, but was listed in the previous amendment. 30A was your gas tax. Okay, it's the fuel motor tax. So that's not listed in here, but all of these sections, 30B, 30C, and 30D, they deal with the funding of transportation. So all the money that goes in for highway and other transportation purposes, they get siloed and they're dedicated funds. What that means is they're dedicated and cannot be touched for any other purposes. So with opening that up, they're then sticking their hand in the cookie jar, and they can gain access to those funds, as well as a huge, huge deal is that the people of Missouri have been asked twice if they want toll roads. We have said no twice. And so the courts, they've tried to go around that. They've tried to go around it kind of like they did with the gas tax, but it didn't work. And the courts basically, I'm paraphrasing, but saying that these are dedicated, and because they're dedicated, you can't tax them outside of that dedicated, and that's what the tolls would be. They would be an additional tax, and you're going to have to either change the Constitution or get a vote of the people. And the part that they need to change in order to get toll roads without a vote of the people are these sections in Article 4, sections 30B, 30C, and 30D that are protected, directed funds only to be used for highway purposes and other transportation.
So when you look at 30, go ahead. So sorry, Mike.
I was going to say, if you don't think they're actually considering this, just this last February, HJR 194 was filed, and it was to authorize state funds for constructing and operating toll roads on interstates and 4-lane highways, and to exempt toll revenue from the Hancock Amendment definitions, and they specify that same 30B section.
Right. So we're exempting this. 30B is the allocation of motor vehicle fuel taxes. This section specifies how funds for motor vehicle fuel taxes are allocated for highway purposes, and it ensures that a portion of these taxes is designated for the construction, maintenance, and operation of the highways. 30C Authority of the Highways and Transportation Commission grants the Highways and Transportation Commission the authority to plan, locate, establish public transportation facilities, acquire, construct, maintain, and control these facilities, develop and fund various transportation programs, including aviation, mass transportation, intermodal connections, and it emphasizes the Commission's role in managing public transportation as part of the state transportation system. 30D is the prohibition against diverting highway user revenues. They're exempting all of this. So somebody explain, why in the world have you put the dedicated highway funds, and why is this not a part of the ballot language? You've put it in Amendment 5. This is what they're giving themselves license to. Why? Why, if it's not for toll roads? I mean, that'd be really interesting. Mike, this is what you guys wrote. I put this in here. So if you want to go over this, I'll hit the slides as you go over, but this is part of Act for Missouri's information.
Oh, this is the history of
Yes.
toll roads that Lisa was talking about. So I don't have the date that they passed the first try at this, but in 1968, the Supreme Court of Missouri unanimously strikes down the Missouri Turnpike Authority Act in Poll versus the State Highway Commission, holding that Article 4 road fund money is dedicated to free public highways. And in both 1970 and 1992, they took it to a vote of the people, and Missouri voters rejected it both times. And then 2014, this is an interesting one because this was legislation. The legislator's transportation sales tax proposal, this what's going to be Amendment 7, includes an express prohibition on the commission authorizing, owning, or operating toll highways or bridges. They put that in there to try to ease people's worries about having the toll roads. And so they were actually thinking about it then when they were trying to do this sales tax proposal. And the voters voted that one down too. But and then of course the one that I just talked about just this last session, it didn't go anywhere, but it does show that. But having them file that in February tells you that it is fresh in their minds and that is floating around. And if this passes, they've already got the bill there ready to go, so they'll bring it back.
Yep, HJR 194 was brought up in February of 2026. So it looks suspicious, but again, somebody needs to explain, and not Florida Carl, why in the world. I really go to Florida and do your thing, but don't try to overtake this. Carve outs. The one carve out. Who wants to take this one? It's in this bill. The legislation, the one carve out, the most important carve out, not medical, not groceries, not things that mean something to people on fixed incomes. But you know what they carved out? Marijuana. So apparently the marijuana lobby got there. And guess what? Florida Carl, he is a part of the marijuana. Whatever.
And not what the governor promised in his State of the State speech, where he said that agriculture, healthcare, and real estate would be exempted. Yep. He promised it, but none of those made it into the legislation.
Nope. No, but marijuana did. So I'm glad about that. Just to show you in the Missouri Constitution, here it is. You can find it there. I love this. Mike, can you get this up? Because I got to show
give me just a second here.
Because we're going to talk about, this is a really short clip, but I want people to hear this. The guy on the far right, that is Chad Perkins. He's a state rep who actually is the House Pro Tem, so the second in command in the House of Representatives in Missouri. We debated him in the spring about Amendment 5. And the one thing that I really walked away from that debate, I didn't get on camera, thank goodness, but Lisa did, but you can hear me in the background. And the thing that you're going to understand is there will be carve outs, guys, but it won't be us. So he's going to talk about, once this passes, they're going to bring everybody back to the table to renegotiate.
Well, Kehoe said that. Said that.
Yep. Are you ready? You got it, Mike?
I'm ready to play it here.
Let's go.
Means all the folks who get some special benefit got to come back and renegotiate, and the whole world can see how it'll happen. I think that's really a good thing.
Well,
it's all out in the public and very quick.
So I wasn't happy about that because he said it and he wished he could have taken it back. But that's what's going to happen, guys. They're telling you all the special interests, all the lobbyists. Remember what Scott Fitzpatrick said, for every carve out, the rate will go into the stratosphere. Next one is your governor, Mike Kehoe. He doesn't call them lobbyists or special interest. He says advocacy groups, Mike.
Yes, advocacy groups. That's right.
Advocacy groups. And that is the same thing. He's telling you, he's signaling, if this passes, once it passes and the legislation starts to flow, then he's going to bring we've promised the advocacy groups they'll have a seat at the table. That's code word. Remember what Wassinger said, that in that short amount of time, how many special interests to the tune of what, $13 billion
Yep.
had gotten special interests. They got money designated. So can you play this one, Mike?
Yep. Here we go.
Approve this November. It gets out of this building, and Missourians will approve it when it comes on the ballot. What tax policy looked like and who would be affected actually gets developed in the 2027 legislative year. So that's the time the advocacy groups, we can work with them, and we've promised all of them they'll have a seat at the table to scare people into what they think this.
So they'll have a seat at the table, but will we? No, we won't have a seat at the table, but the advocacy groups will.
I think we had a question on here, Mike, you might be able to answer. Is there an actual number on what the deficit in the budget will be I think they're asking if we eliminate income tax?
Well,
the projections, are you talking about how much do we bring in state income tax every year?
I think so.
Approximately $9 billion is my understanding.
Yeah.
And I want to tell people really quickly, and then I want Lisa to go into the silos, and this is how they cook the books, and this is revenue neutral they keep talking about. But I want to bring this up very quickly. In the first version of the legislation, it was interesting because the average Missourian pays $1,500 a year in income tax and state income tax. This isn't federal too. This is just your state income tax. And what they had said is there'll be a trigger. This was the first version. There'll be a trigger for every $20 million in general revenue that there's a surplus. Then they're going to cut the state income tax 0.01%. Well, on our podcast, we got to making fun of them because you know how much 0.01% of $1,500 is?
Not much.
15 cents. 15 cents. And if we're just swimming in cash, the cap would be $15 a year. That was the first version. So is that a foreshadowing of where they're headed? Well, we don't know because the second version was so much more broad that that's really up to them. We have no idea. They're going to write it. They're not going to take it to a vote of the people. They get carte blanche, blank check for 5 years. But Lisa, what do I have on the screen? Can you talk about revenue neutral and where we have legitimate concerns about that whole idea?
Yeah, because time and time again, what we hear from Republicans when we're at our chicken dinners or our picnics is that they're going to cut taxes. They're just like us. Everything aligns with us. But the problem is during the legislative cycle, somehow somebody takes over their body and they're no longer the same people that were at the chicken dinner. That goes back to HB 2423, among other parts of legislation. So this passed. This was Republican Rep. Okerling. Each one of these, what you'll see here, are different amounts of money that either went to the general revenue that they're now moving and shifting to a dedicated fund, or a portion of that money got swept into the general fund. So you get the gist one way or another. It was money that went into the general revenue that now they're moving to what we call a dedicated or siloed fund. That means it doesn't show as hitting general revenue at all. It's a dedicated fund. So you only have general revenue, dedicated funds, and federal funds. Okay, so federal funds also are not part of general revenue. So when you have that going on, and then you say they're doing all this right now, anticipation of amendment passing, then it's going to show right here with all these dedicated funds that they're creating that they're what I like to call cooking the books. So in the good old mafia days, you had one set of books that were your real books of profits that are coming in, and your other set of books that showed your off book profits that you don't really want to show on your legitimate book. So that's what they're doing when they're doing these dedicated funds and siloed funds. They will never show in hitting as general revenue. And so it'll be like it never came in. So let me give you another example. They always say, well, where's all of our casino funds that were supposed to come in for education? If you're doing things like this and you're cooking the books, you're never going to show that you actually received in more money. It's always going to look like we're deficit funds and we never did achieve actually receiving in more money than we actually did.
So ideally, when they talk about general revenue, we want just one big pot, ideally, that all the funds go into. And then based on what we have, we disperse those funds. And then if we have growth or revenue increases, we get our income tax cut because we have so much, quote, growth. Well, how are they measuring growth? Who's defining what revenue neutral looks like? Because to you and I, it should look like one thing. But when you're a politician and you can write legislation, which they have been, this one was Senator Bean, 1033. It's just another example. Lisa, you want to touch on this?
Yeah, it's the same thing. So this was the Natural Resources Fund. Any unexpended funds was supposed to, this is how it was already in statute, was reverting back to the general revenue at the end of the year. It removed that it would revert back. And so they were dedicating all those funds. Emission inspections in Missouri, Air Emissions Reduction Fund allowed monies to go to the general revenue at the year end if the general revenue did not increase by more than 2% or more the previous year. Now it will not go back to the general revenue. So what they're doing time and time again, because they don't think that you're awake, they don't think that you're paying attention or will understand when they're doing these underhanded things to tax you.
So this is, again, going back, we're talking about the new annual revenue. How will that be counted? Well, it's not going to be considered new annual revenue, but where will it go? And that's a really good question. They also talk about cutting your personal property and real estate taxes in the legislation. On page 3, line 30, it says, the General Assembly expands the sales and use tax pursuant to subsection 2 of this section. Any political subdivision that imposes a sales or use tax in the manner provided by law, Lisa?
Not yet written.
Not yet written. Enacted by the General Assembly can make like Mike said before, a one-time adjustment. Now, we don't know if that's going to be 0.01% like they did in the other bill because it's not yet written. So how much of a one-time adjustment will that legislation allow for? We have no idea. We have no idea. It goes on, and this is a really important piece, is they constantly are talking about, we're going to cut your real estate taxes. Yes, we are. We're going to cut those real estate taxes. Well, let's read what the legislation talks about. So it's talking about, does anybody else want to pick up this part? Because I think this is super important because they're advertising this like crazy.
Yeah.
And
So
I
this,
think, so pick this up.
This is where when you're seeing the ads and they say that it's going, if you pass Amendment 5, it'll eliminate your income tax and lower your property tax. Well, this is the section where they're referring to, but this will also tell you why that will not happen. So if there is a windfall, then the political subdivisions have these 5 items that they can pick from to bring that windfall back into check. And yes, there are property tax options on here, but the notwithstanding the provisions of subdivision 1 of this, I'm having trouble reading it. It's too small for me, but basically they exempt anything affecting the school funding in this. So where does your school funding come from? It comes from your county property taxes.
Yep.
So there's no political subdivision that's going to pick that option if there is a windfall to reduce your taxes. And
I'll read it. It says, notwithstanding the provision of subdivision 1 of this subsection, to the contrary, no political subdivision shall adjust its local tax rates in a manner that results in any reduction. So that's a big word in legislation. Any reduction in funding to any public schools within or serving such political subdivision. So to Mike's point, okay, so how are you going to do a proper real estate tax reduction when you can't actually adjust the tax rate to benefit the homeowner, because that will affect the schools? So the question we have here, in Missouri, seniors aged 62 and older can apply for a property tax freeze if your locale or your political subdivision agrees to it. But the question becomes, that tax freeze is statutory. If Amendment 5 gets voted into our Constitution, then that trumps a state statute. So will your senior tax freeze still be viable? They could have written this legislation in such a way that guaranteed it would be, but why did they not do that, Lisa?
Well, they wanted to ensure that that probably wasn't going to be touched. You know, I'm going to touch on something else here. That, for one, you've already talked about it, Stacy. They have moved in the opposite direction. When I say they, the Republicans, the elected Republicans in the state of Missouri, and through the state tax commission and the governor, have moved in the opposite direction with your real estate taxes. They strong-armed the assessors into signing memorandums of understanding to increase your assessments. That's one. The second thing that I'll say is Republican Senator Sandy Crawford this session, she had a personal property bill. And when I did the calculations out for multiple vehicles, multiple years, with all the years out, it was a 12 years to say what the personal property tax would be on the vehicles or boats or whatever it would be, personal property. Each one of those amounted to an increase in personal property, not a decrease. So again, they're not doing in your face things where they're going, okay, we're going to take from 4 to 5%. They're doing these backhanded ways that you don't really know that they're doing it. So I said in that hearing and said, hey, these are all increases. So what you're doing is you're increasing personal property taxes by using this assessment method on people of Missouri. And her response was, yes, but did you go out 15 years? Why would I go out 15 years? I mean, it was the stupidest response. Like, why would I do that? The legislation says 12. And that's what I said to her. And she said, well, because now we're looking at 15 years.
So do you trust them? Do you trust them?
I mean,
Right.
I mean, you trust based upon past history, right? No matter what it is, that's what
Past
you do.
behavior. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And based upon past history and behavior, we should not trust these people.
Well, and I want you to say about what Senator Beck, talk about that really quick. Like, how do you know they're trolling, right? He's a Democrat, but they're trolling for those elderly, the seniors in Missouri that have taken advantage of the tax freeze. Talk about that real quick.
Okay, so on the Senate floor, he had it where he was putting it in two places. Senator Beck, who's a Democrat, had said, I want to be able to identify everybody that's getting the senior tax freeze. Like, I want to be able to identify how much is that money
How much money?
the door. How much money is going out the door? And the reasoning for that is obvious because we were having all these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
So the two are not compatible. You cannot say we're going to, you cannot have any public school funding taken and have a senior tax freeze, because the senior tax freeze means that those seniors are not putting into the system for the public schools. So those two are not compatible as far as I can see it, and obviously others on the horizon as well.
I want to go into next, and this is something we've been talking about a lot, like Lisa and I, but the legislature is negatively impacting the workforce in Missouri by opening the door to artificial intelligence replacing human workers, the interstate compacts that promote that promise to compete with human workers in the immediate future and currently impacting workers in our state. This is just this session in 2026. I want Lisa or any of you guys to explain. These are all of the bills that were about compacts. What's a compact and why should we worry?
Well, a compact is something that we've been entered into, I think, again, kind of stealthily. And the sales job on the compact is we're deficit workers. And so because we're deficit workers, and by the way, other states are deficit workers too, but somehow by entering into this compact that we're going to get more workers in. So that's, and what compact means, workers in other states. And so what we will do is waive the requirements and just let them work here. All right. Now the compact is another Nancy Pelosi thing. It's things not yet written, rules, regulations. And what it's doing is it's taking away the sovereignty of our state and the things that we put in place for rules and regulations. And we're handing it over to a body that we don't know what they're going to do. So if you think of COVID, it's the perfect COVID setup, because everywhere we're in with nursing, with doctors, with they tried dentists, social workers. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Basically, anything you could think of to get licensed is now we're handing our sovereignty and authority over, saying you write the rules and regulations, and we're going to abide by them. And by the way, if we don't abide by whatever you're doing over there, then the court system sides on the side of you, not us. It's actually insanity.
And so the compact commission, like, what's the reciprocity? I am so sorry, everybody. I'm outside because my Wi-Fi wasn't working. So I know it's probably picking up. It's probably going to storm. I don't know, but I know I'm dark over here, but I had to rush over to somebody else's house.
Yeah, I got it. So I might mic your mute a couple of, or
That's
mute
okay.
your mic just to the wind, just so you know. So
that's totally fine. But just know, if you live in another state, work in Missouri, you're not paying income tax in Missouri. You're paying income tax in the state that you live in. So these are just part of the bills. There were bills in 2025 also, but they also threaten the licensure of people who have worked really hard to get their license established. And then you allow some out-of-state commission to write all the rules for the people they're going to bring in out of state to compete. I want you guys to go, you can mute me, somebody else can go over this, but this is, for you guys that were there, this is huge, so huge, because Mike Moon, and this is AI taking the jobs of the workforce, therefore we're going to lose income tax revenue. But this was an amendment that he was putting on to one of Curtis Trent's bills. And this is what it read. As used in this section, the term AI means any software, machine, or system capable of simulating human-like cognitive functions, including but not limited to learning or problem solving, producing outputs based on data-driven algorithms, rules-based logic, or other computational methods, regardless of non-legally defined classifications such as artificial general intelligence, AGI, artificial superintelligence, ASI, or generative artificial intelligence, GAI. No AI system shall be granted the status of a person or any form of legal personhood for the purpose of obtaining licensure under Chapter 326. Can somebody mute me and somebody else pick up what happened?
I'll mute it.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. So what happened was this passed on the bill, and it was perfected, and they didn't want it perfected. So Senator Curtis Trent, who's a Republican, he had a motion to reconsider it after that. So they brought up the bill, even though it was buttoned up, it was done, that was put in it. It was a great amendment. He had a motion to reconsider it and bring it back to the floor. And the only change made was to strip that from the bill. So he stripped it, and then they passed it after they stripped that from the bill.
So maybe we ought to point out for some of the people that are unaware, when they say perfected, that normally means that's where all amendments stop. The bill's supposed to be locked in, and then they have one more final vote to approve it. And that's the point where Senator Trent that she's talking about came back in and reopened up the bill so he could strip that out, just so people understand.
That's right. And so it also tells you, where is Senator Curtis Trent with artificial intelligence, with data centers? Okay. He's firmly in bed with them, in my opinion. And my opinion, again, is based upon history. It's based upon this. Any common sense person would say that artificial intelligence should not be defined as a person in order, well, really for anything. Okay. But in this instance, in the manner to license, we want normal humans in those positions and them not have the status of AI, have the status of a human being. But yet it's clear that Senator Curtis Trent believes that should not be the case and that they should be granted status as a person.
So weird.
Am I still muted?
Yeah,
Nope,
you're
you're
good.
back.
Go ahead.
Oh, hey everybody. I think really important to understand is he was the Senate handler of what is Amendment 5 now, the HJR 173 and 174. So he is a promoter of the data centers, giving AI a human status in legislation, understanding that we are going to see our state income tax by real workers diminished. So he's driving a new way to generate, because it is the largest, 64% of Missouri's budget, or 67% comes from state income tax.
So we do have a question about that last one.
Yeah.
She said it got lost. What is stripped out of the bill, the AI bill? So can we just go
Okay, so what happened is that bill was not an AI bill. That bill was a licensing bill. So what happened was Senator Moon added an amendment for the protection of real human beings against artificial intelligence being licensed in that sphere. And so that amendment went in, it was voted on, it passed in that form, and it was perfected in that form, meaning closed and perfected. The next was a final vote. And that is when Senator Trent pulled it back to life after that and said, we're going to reopen this back up and we're going to strip out the AI part of the bill, saying that artificial intelligence could not be deemed a human being as far as licensing. And so that's what happened. So I hope that.
So what's going to happen is that artificial intelligence will be allowed to replace human workers who actually make money and pay in their income tax. They're going to be replaced with artificial intelligence. The compacts are going to bring in out-of-state workers that don't pay income tax, and there are dozens of. It's insane how many. But we are handing over our authority as a state to compact commissions to bring in out-of-state workers who will not pay income tax in the state of Missouri. So we are going to look at real deficits, considering that our funding, 67% of it comes from the state income tax in Missouri.
That's right.
This is let's just play like the first couple minutes. This is a video that we actually put together. Who's funding Amendment 5? And if you haven't seen it, we're going to play like a teaser, the first couple of minutes, and then Mike, you can stop it. You can find this on Act for Missouri, on Shield Maidens of Missouri Substack. You can find it on our Facebook pages. But I think this is very insightful because the people that are pushing Amendment 4 are denying where the money is coming from to support Amendment 5. And when you look at the players, and I'm just going to let Mike play the video or start it, and then we can talk and we can take your questions after this.
To how much dark, out-of-state money is funding the push for Amendment 5. Governor Mike Kehoe says he is opposed to out-of-state money informing our elections to rewrite our Constitution when it comes to Amendment 4. But why is he refusing to address the millions of dollars from out-of-state donors who are hidden from the public, trying to buy Amendment 5 in Missouri that will rewrite Missouri's Constitution with a yes vote? Groups that attempt to convince you they are grassroots organizations in our state are trying very hard to sell you on the fact that you should stop the out-of-state influence of dark money in our elections by voting for Amendment 4. In the same breath, the same people are pushing for Amendment 5. Why are they ignoring the obvious and attempting to deceive you? Let's take a look at the not-for-profit doing the majority of funding for Amendment 5. It is called Missouri Promise. It is very likely you have seen their ads or some of their material trying to convince you Amendment 5 will lower your taxes and is the path to a better Missouri. Missouri Promise was registered in Delaware in November of 2025. The registered agent is called the Corporation Trust Company. The Corporation Trust Company is a wholly owned subsidiary of Wolters Kluwer, a multinational company based in the Netherlands. Going to the Missouri Ethics Commission, you will find the pack linked to donations made by Missouri Promise. You will also find other concerning out-of-state donations documented here as well. You will notice on the Missouri Ethics Commission's website that the Missouri Promise PAC began receiving large donations to push Amendment 5 as soon as the legislation appeared to be on its way to passage by the Missouri General Assembly. Let's take a look at some of those big money, out-of-state, dark money donations. You will see that on May 7th, the first donation was made to the Missouri Promise PAC. It was made by Missouri Promise, Inc., registered in Delaware, with an office at 701 Market Street, Suite 110 in St. Louis, Missouri. When attempting to find that address, you will see that it is not an office as you and I would understand it to be. It is a virtual office. It is also noted when making an inquiry about the office that 701 Market Street, Suite 110 in St. Louis, does not house just one physical company. It functions primarily as a virtual office and commercial mail receiving hub. Because of this, dozens of independent businesses, LLCs, and independent contractors use this exact address for their mail, registration, or business presence. Missouri Promise, Inc. donated $1.9 million on May 28th to that same virtual address. You will see that on June 13th, Secure Missouri dropped $1.5 million into the Missouri Promise PAC. The address registered to Secure Missouri is 308 East High Street, Suite 300, Jefferson City, Missouri. In looking at their website, there is very limited information shown. This is it. But there is something interesting to be shown here. The Missouri Promise PAC, whose donors are unknown, and Secure Missouri share the same address at 308 East High Street. Those donors are unknown as well. July 2nd, 2026. A $1 million donation was made to Missouri Promise PAC from America Advancement, Inc. This corporation is located in Hyattsville, Maryland. CCI, the address shown, is an address primarily serving as a commercial mailbox and virtual office location, specifically at the PostNet in Hyattsville, Maryland, for several different registered nonprofits and political action committees. Again, who are the donors trying to get Amendment 5 across the line in Missouri? We have no idea. July 2nd, a $300,000 donation was made to Missouri Promise PAC by the American Policy Coalition in Columbus, Ohio. But, once again, this is a virtual office. Both addresses are located at 4200 Regent Street, Suite 200, Columbus, Ohio. PMB stands for Personal Mailbox in the address. Are you starting to catch on to what is happening to Missouri? We are dealing with out-of-state money pushing Amendment 5, but could it be foreign influences as well? We have no idea. On July 7th, the American Policy Coalition from Ohio dropped an additional $500,000 into the Missouri Promise PAC. We also saw a new player emerge called the Revitalization Project from Springfield, Virginia. They dropped $500,000 into the Missouri Promise PAC. Their address shows as a Staples store. Likely, the number 1026 is just a mailbox. July 8th, 2026. Missouri Action, with a P.O. box in Jefferson City, Missouri, donated $3.9 million to the Missouri Promise PAC. Who are they? July 9th, 2026. The American Policy Coalition from Ohio again, this time with a $500,000 drop to the Missouri Promise PAC. Enter Missouri Action back into the conversation when on July 13th, 2026, with a donation to the Missouri Promise PAC for in excess of $96,000. Who are they? Remember, they are the same entity that made the largest donation to Missouri Promise earlier with a $3.9 million donation. When they made their earlier donation, they only identified as a P.O. box in Jefferson City. This entry shows us something interesting. The same address registered for the Missouri Promise PAC is also the address registered for Missouri Action, the office of Mark Ellinger and Stephanie Bell. It appears.
So maybe we'll stop it there.
Yeah.
Again, you can see the whole video on either our webpage or our social media or the Shield Maidens Substack or their Facebook page. It's pretty much everywhere right now. So
I just think the hypocrisy of the Amendment 4 debate is that they're not looking at the Amendment 5 issue, and you cannot find a name, anything that is spending up in excess of $10 million to get Amendment 5 across the line. Who wants Amendment 5 across the line? Well, it looks like out-of-state donors that are faceless, nameless entities. We have no idea who they are. And I just think it's so concerning that the Amendment 4 drivers and pushers, I think the funding is tandem. Amendment 4 and 5, I think that funding is paying for both of those amendments to be pushed by Missouri Promise. And I think it's very, very, very concerning. It's everything the Amendment 4 people say they're against. Yeah.
we've got a comment from Gail. Oh, I wonder how many of those companies dumping money into Missouri Promise are data center private equity guys.
Well, okay, so I've got a comment there. So if you look at all that paperwork there about where all the money was getting funneled, what you're going to see throughout was Stephanie Bell. An interesting thing about Stephanie Bell is she also represents Velvet Technologies. So in the Evergy case, Velvet Technologies are the data center people. And so when you look at that on that side, and then you see, okay, she was also representing them on the Evergy case and basically increasing our utilities. Those two kind of meet and intersect.
So, I mean, that's where we can end. We could talk about this for hours, and people have been very kind just to sit and hopefully what we've done here is we've given you enough research to do on your own that you can start digging. Again, do it yourself. Don't take our word for it. But there's so much more to Amendment 5 than just a couple of sentences on a ballot. Truly, we are concerned for the well-being of our state because it's in a completely open-ended piece of legislation, which is incredibly dangerous to do with a legislature that has shown us we can't trust them. Yeah. They're at the same legislature that has taken us to a fiscal cliff. And it's not a secret, guys. They've taken us to a fiscal cliff. That's the same legislature that's saying, trust us. We're going to be able to write a new tax code and set the rates and decide what's going to be taxed and how much it's going to be taxed. Just trust us. They won't let us see what happens in the Senate and the chamber or the committee hearings. Again, it's how do you trust that?
Well, okay, so I want to address something. So Michael Burton is on here and he said, hey, everybody, vote Democrat. And so I know Michael, he's a Democrat. This is what I would say. We've got a uniparty problem. And so, Michael, what I would say to you in particular is what I see from both parties, including yourself, is that you supposedly have sincerely held beliefs, and your beliefs as a Democrat are completely opposite in the social issues as mine are. I don't know where they stand fiscally, but I have seen time and time again, this is not just a Republican problem, that things that you say you espouse to, and I'm going to bring up the water, that I didn't see you standing. I saw you going right along with them, with the Republicans, with the water issue. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to sell me when I see people like, I think, Democrat McCreary is going to stand for utilities, and then she bends on utilities. So what I see is not a party problem. I see a uniparty against the people problem. That's what I see.
Yeah, I second that. I think, the Democrats, you need to watch your own side. I mean, there's plenty going on there. And if you don't think you've got your big donors at the top of the Democrat Party that aren't running your side, just like we've got our big donors running our side, sadly mistaken. So the best you can
Right.
do is hold your party to its
I
principles.
mean, we wouldn't have these data centers coming in right now if they would have protected our water.
That's right.
Right.
Which is exactly what they did. And Michael, you were part of that. You were
I will say
part
this too.
of doing that.
But the thing is, if the Democrats really wanted to stop this in the Senate, they had all the power to do it.
A5?
Then
Yeah.
filibuster.
No, the Senate sat. I mean, the Democrat House leader called out the Democrat senators.
Yeah. So in the House, it looked like they were fighting. They're putting out great videos and getting a lot of mileage. But in the Senate, they were all a part of it. And
I've seen them fight in the Senate. So
they fought about a lot of stuff, but they
got it in them. So they chose to be more quiet on 5 for whatever reason.
So again, we have the state of Missouri, the people where they're truly our well-being, the well-being of our parents and our grandparents and people on fixed incomes, people that have cancer and are sick that aren't paying income tax because they're in treatment. They cannot afford this. The unknowns are too big, they're scary. But they tell us, just trust us. Trust us for 5 years. Don't worry about the Hancock. We're not going to count this as new annual revenue. So we're going to say that so you don't have to vote on it. Well, we want to vote on it. We want a seat at the table, but nobody's offering us a seat at that same table that all the advocacy groups and special interests are going to get a seat at the table at. We won't be a part of that. So are there any other questions for us, guys? I'm going to exit out of this.
I'm looking. Just a lot of comments, donors giving to both sides. We agree with that.
So before we drop off here real quick, let's do another poll and see, after hearing all this, and we do encourage everybody, do your own homework, read the legislation. But from what you heard tonight, where do you stand now on Amendment 5? Are you supporting it or are you against it?
I'm pretty sure I swallowed a bug.
You probably did.
I'm outside and I hate outside at night with no lights. So I'm pretty sure I swallowed a bug, but I'm okay.
We've got somebody, so they're doing the poll right now that's on Amendment 5. Yes, no, we're still deciding. You can put it in there. And then I see Lisa Payne has wanted us to address Amendment 4.
Amendment 4. Well, okay, so we're somebody may want to give, I'll give you guys are all no, right? So I can give I'm going to give you my hesitant yes, and then you guys can give the no, but I'll give the overview. So when I give the hesitant yes, it's probably going to sound like a no, and I understand it's because I'm the person that brings out all the issues and bills. Okay, but so you've got to weigh it all. So the good part is, as far as I see it, is that we have to close the loophole in doing where the people are bringing directly to the ballot. And then St. Louis and Kansas City this is a direct democracy deciding for the rest of us, which is no good. So they do close that loophole by using all 8 congressional districts. And we probably shouldn't have the IP process. I've done a lot of research about the IP. I understand why they put it in, but we probably still shouldn't have it. Okay. And they're closing that loophole, but then they're leaving open the legislative side. It's untouched. So it continues on just like it is right now. So the legislature can bring things directly to the ballot, and then that's going to leave St. Louis and Kansas City still to decide for us. So that side is not good. However, I would say at least they're elected. At least we can kick them out, even though I don't like that side. I'd say my greatest hesitancy doesn't lie there. It actually lies with the foreign funding part. There's the adversaries for foreign funding is prohibited in this bill, which would be amazing. And so it's also for the ballot signatures, the paid ballot signatures. That's also in the bill, which is great. What is not great is that they gave in both of those portions, the Attorney General, the sole and exclusive authority to prosecution, meaning, in my opinion, it's never going to happen. That's what I'm telling you, unless it is a political enemy. So if I give you an example right now, Kehoe is in there. He appointed Catherine Hanaway. If you think that he could be fully funded by China and Iran, and Catherine Hanaway is not going to go after him. So if we were left to go ahead and be the ones to bring suit and injury before the courts, then I would really probably even more so say yes. But I'm a hesitant yes, because I really don't like that portion. I think once that's in the Constitution like that, with the foreign funding, that it's creating a standard the opposite of what we're intending, and that we might actually never get this foreign funding thing fixed. But in that, I'm still a hesitant yes as of this day. Lord help me. So that's why I just say everybody pray about it. Now you guys give the no.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep trying to work on you to get you to it.
We're praying for you, Lisa.
So
But I like that.
Lisa described the bill perfectly, or the amendment perfectly. And the biggest problem that I have with it is the double standard. I do believe we need to fix how we amend our Constitution. I'm not even going to say IP on that, because that's really the issue. We don't want the things like the marijuana and the bingo and all that got into our Constitution. This, to me, does not do that. What it does is it removes our ability to ever, if we ever needed to go out and do an IP that would override what our General Assembly is doing, that avenue is gone, because it's going to be, you could have, to get 8 out of 8 congressional districts, all it takes is one district in St. Louis or Kansas City. And, we're talking about right now them being able to add stuff to our Constitution. Well, this flips it the other way, gives them a veto over anything that we'd want to do.
Right.
You could have all 7 congressional districts vote 90% to 10% to add something, and you could have a 50+1 in that last congressional district, and the amendment fails. The other thing that I would argue is that those billionaires that are trying to change our Constitution aren't going to go away if this gets passed. They're just going to move to going to the lobbyists, because they are still the pathway of least resistance. Will be our General Assembly, and maybe we fight off the worst of it if we maintain our Republican majority. But sooner or later, we're probably going to have Democrats in charge again, and they will be able to do it. And Kansas City and St. Louis will be able to push their amendments over the top at that point too. And then on top of that, the Attorney General deciding which foreign money they want to go after and not go after. I think we have to tell them no and go back and do this the right way. There has been bills that have been proposed that would do this the right way and also protect our Constitution. So that's why I'm a no.
What he said. I just fear that, again, the whole Amendment 3 with abortion on demand through the 9th month, if we vote this version of Amendment 4 in, then we've locked that in. And so I had this question today of Lisa. So if they vote this in August, and then, everyone who's voting for Amendment 3, we pass that, if that were to pass in November, well, does the August vote eliminate the November vote? I just, nobody really knows the answer to those questions, but I just say 8 to have to get all 8. That's not what the whole idea, the overarching idea of the Electoral College, because that's what a lot of people are talking about, represents. And they're just going to lock in what's there. And I think that was probably the plan. They thought they could get 5, so let's get 4 and lock it in. And I just think it's bad. I think they give us political slop and say, here, do this. And that's all we're going to give you.
The bad choices, just the terrible choices.
We don't get good choices ever. And so I say no to the political slop. Give us something good that really represents the supermajority of Republicans that we're supposed to have. Act like it. And don't give us a horrible option. It's just wrong. So I'm a no. I'm an absolute no on that. We can do better.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of us are. And I think that's probably what the party, the GOP, is sensing, is that this resistance is just, raising the bar for a better standard and a higher quality, and, hashtag I want my party back. Right. And it's uncomfortable for them. And I get it, because I think they've gone so long without being challenged. And now these challenges are, it bothers them because now they're having
Yeah.
to justify what they're doing. And let's face it, they've had to work their heinies off all summer, and they weren't planning on
No.
that.
But I think, again, I'm
Yeah.
just going to say this again, and a nod to what Charlie Kirk left us, okay? Let's have the conversation
Mhm.
civilly. Tired of being called a Nazi or a communist or
Right.
I'm not.
Socialist,
And you
yeah,
guys are.
Marxist, socialist, yeah.
And it's okay to have dialogue that's healthy and informed and educated and not be yelled at and called names because we actually read the legislation.
Well, or
So-
threatened to be taken down or, investigated or.
It's
you know,
insane.
So
Insane.
someone said it doesn't change the amount of signatures needed to put amendments on the ballot, correct? No, it does not.
It just, but the outcome is what we're really looking at, is how they judge. Is it a simple majority? I mean, there's been a lot of conversations in the legislatures prior.
And this person's asked this question again, so let's see what it says. I'm not sure.
I mean, again, okay, so I'm going to say this with Michael because this is where you're going to have, I don't have a defense of the Republican Party. I'm not giving a defense of actually, I'm criticizing my Republican Party. But Michael, I would say it's time for you to do the same. And honestly, you're part of your own party and you should do better because what I've seen from you, you should do better. So when you come on here and you say things are going to change, like I believe that somewhere you have sincerely held beliefs, but I haven't found them because if you hold those beliefs like with water, then you totally crumbled when it came down to it. I'm going to go back to McCreary. I've seen her all these years. I've worked with McCreary with the utility legislation. She completely crumbled so she didn't have sincerely held beliefs either. You're seeing 4 people here that have sincerely held beliefs, and we'll go to the mat for them. And what you need to have your own sincerely held beliefs and hold your own people accountable for them, including yourself. Because to me, McCreary did not have sincerely held beliefs because she just sat down. If it would have been me, I would have been filibustering over there the entire time.
When Lisa keeps talking about the water, first of all, I thought you were talking to Mike Compton, and I was offended. I'm like, Lisa's tired. Don't take it personal, Mike, because Lisa's a little tired. So, but she's talking about the water bill last year, where the perfect riparian water rights, what it did is it paved the way for the data centers, just like SB4 did, and where you're seeing now all of your rates go through the roof. The supermajority of Republicans led the way on that and deceived the people there also, and you're going to be paying for that. So our issue is utilities, water. We're looking at increase in, the gas tax is really starting to weigh on people, increase in fuel costs. We're seeing an increase in electricity, real estate taxes, personal property taxes, and now they want to just ram this down our throat. And we're standing up and saying, no more. People can't take anymore. People can't afford anymore. So still, what is the likelihood that Kehoe will veto if 5 doesn't pass?
Flagship Patriot had asked that earlier, and he or she's come back.
So what is the likelihood that Kehoe will veto if 5 doesn't pass? Veto, because when it goes to a vote of the people, that's the decision.
Yeah.
So it's the vote of the people. It overrides anything the governor could do when it goes to an SJR or HJR. So that means it goes to a vote of the people, and it is the consent of the governed at that point. He has no ability to veto that.
The only thing somebody brought up, and they said, well, why is it in the August election? And I said, well, if you want to view it from an election integrity, position, the lesser amount
that is
of
the
votes,
only.
it's easier to cheat. And I'm thinking, what would we do if we felt they cheated on an amendment and it did the 51-49? That's the magic number. That's the magic number of cheating. 50.
Yeah.
So it's a very close margin.
I would also say that you have some very brave political candidates that are running for office. You have some incumbents, but few. Bryant Wolfen is one. Lisa Durnell, Keith Elliott. You've got a few. Joe Nicola, Mike Moon, but very, very few.
Well, and I'm going to interject here too, Stacey, again with Michael and say the Democrats could have joined forces with the little bit that wanted to change the speaker and give the rules back to all of you. all of you. So Michael, that included all the Democrats. So you would have had all your authority back and not placed in the speaker. But your party did not do that. You did not choose to do that and stand with them. So when you criticize, that's why I say you got to clean up your own house, because
And I would say
you could have stood and got your own authority back.
And we'll do something on data centers. We've had data center issues where I'm at. We're seeing the data center issues spread like a cancer across our state. And we will do one of these again soon after the election about data centers. Somebody else said water debate after August. Yes. But we will talk about in depth what happened with the water bill that passed in 2025, Senate Bill 4 that lifted QUIP, construction work in progress, that was illegal since 1976. And last year, 2025, there's super majority of Republicans. They lifted that ban, and now you're paying for construction work while in progress for these data centers. You know, when Ameren, Missouri, and look this up, when they signed agreements, private agreements, confidential agreements with numerous data centers that committed to more electricity than they can even generate at this time, the supply and demand will impact us all. And the Public Service Commission, we should have legislation that protects us from that. And that's not what happened. So again, I say, if your candidate supports or supported, in my opinion, this Amendment 5, HJR 173 and 174, and if they still support it, they're not your candidate. They're not representing you. They're representing the special interest, period, bar none.
No, and Michael, it isn't that I can't say anything about Democrats. What I'm saying is there's a party, a uniparty against the people. And whether it's right or it's wrong, I saw McCreary stand for years against utilities. And I believe that that was a sincerely held belief for her until the time came when she had to put that to action, which would have been leading a filibuster to kill the bill, and she didn't do it. So to me, someone that's not willing to put the thing in action means it's not a sincerely held belief. And so I can say that I had a lot of respect for her in that area until I saw it was not sincere.
Well, or something more enticing, came
Yes.
along to say, take a seat on this and we'll be sure you get A, B, and C.
Yeah.
They have their leadership. Democrats have their leadership, just like Republicans have their leadership.
Anybody else have a question?
I think we've got most of them, unless if anybody wants to put something in there, now is the time. I'll go back through and see.
I will say that me and Amy will be back Saturday night again, doing another one of these, and we'll do more question and answers than we did tonight. We wanted to really get the information out tonight, and that's why we focused on this tonight.
Again, when you go to vote, guys, this is what I'll say. It's not just the 2 or 3 sentences that you're voting on. What we covered tonight is the license to open up everything that's in the legislation. That's where the guts of this are located. So when we talk about toll roads, when we talk about taxing literally everything, when we talk about no carve-outs, they could have done so much to narrow this, but they're going to say, well, it's revenue neutral. Again, they're going to wordsplain, but what the
the words, I'm telling you, yeah.
Oh, wordsplain. But you can't deny what's in the legislation. They could have done way better, but they didn't. They wanted to give themselves as much of an open end to do whatever they wanted for 5 years. Most of these guys that are fighting for this will be termed out in 2.
Right.
So that means just really grasp the fact that the same people that are paying to push this across the line will be the same entities with a seat at the table that will be writing the legislation that's being imposed on you, just like the utilities, just like QUIP, just like all the things that are burdening regular Missourians right now. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. Democrat, we're the human beings of Missouri. We are being burdened because the legislature has the power to act and they're not. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys listening. Do your own research, pick up the legislation, and please engage. Tell your neighbors the law of exponentials is a powerful thing.
Yes, have that conversation.
When 2 people tell 2 people to tell 2 people, that's where the power of the people exists. And we have the power because we're coming together and we're uniting to have important conversations. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate the time spent with us tonight.
Thank you guys.
Thank everybody. And this will be up on all of our social media, Rumble and YouTube tomorrow. So you can send your friends to watch it from there. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you on Saturday night.
Have a good night.
Good night. Can you keep us on there, Mike, or no?
Yeah.